I'd like to call the Tuesday, May 26th, 2020 Board of Adjustments meeting to order. It's a little different today. We got myself present, and I believe joining us remotely is Deb Wendell Dobbs, Russell Ford Dunker, Mike Mitchell. So we have 4 members at the moment. We'll see if some additional ones join us or not. Just some kind of ground rules before we get started. I'd ask that you please mute yourself when you're not speaking so that we don't have some chatter in the background. So first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the November 26, 2019 meeting. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Moved by Deb. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I believe that was Mike. Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Moving on to item 2, new business. We have 2 variance requests today. The first one is at 2402 Lilac Lane, and I will turn it over to Maggie.
Yes, good morning, commissioners. Item 2A on your agenda is located at 2402 Lilac Lane North. The applicant and owner, Brian Martin, is joining us virtually today. The applicant would like to construct a new detached garage, which would be partially located within the required front setback. Section 200403 of the Land Development Code states that no accessory structure other than a fence, wall, or hedge may be located within a required front setback. The proposed plan would place the garage 23 feet away from the southeast property line, and accordingly the applicant is requesting a variance to allow the detached garage to encroach 7 feet into that required setback. This was actually submitted by the applicant. His property boundary lines are here, and this is the requested placement of his proposed detached garage. Moving on to the findings and facts. A is that the requested variance arises from conditions that are unique to the subject property. So the subject property is actually 30,100 square feet in area, which is over 3 times larger than what is required for SR2 properties by the Land Development Code. The shape of the lot could be considered atypical, as Lilac Lane takes on a wider, rounded shape in front of 2402, creating a curved property line. The applicant also points out that the proposed garage design respects the style of the neighborhood by keeping the new garage in line with the building facade of the neighbor to the south, Ultimately, though, staff finds that the requested variance does not arise from conditions that are unique to the subject property. Although the lot shape could be considered irregular due to the curve in the right-of-way, the total area of the lot provides space to construct a detached garage without encroaching into the front setback. So we would consider criteria A not satisfied. B, the proposed project will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners. Notice of this request was sent out to property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. To date, staff has received 0 calls about the project, and staff finds that the reduction of the front setback as addressed by the variance would not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners. C, the applicable standards would constitute an unnecessary physical hardship because the property cannot be used for an otherwise allowed use. So a reduction of the front setback is not required for the use and enjoyment of the property for residential household living, and staff does find that the strict application of the applicable standards will not constitute an unnecessary physical hardship because the property can be used for an otherwise allowed use without coming into conflict with LDC standards. So criteria C is not satisfied. D, the project will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or general welfare. Staff agrees with that, and we believe criteria D is satisfied. And E, the variance is the minimum variance that will overcome the hardship. we would agree that the proposed variance would be the minimum requirement needed to construct the structure as proposed by the applicant, so criteria E is satisfied. And so going forward, the recommendation of staff is to accept the findings and deny the requested variance to allow a reduction of the front setback in the SR2 zoning district on the basis that review criteria A and C have not been met. I would be happy to answer any questions, as well as, again, Brian Martin is on virtually, and he may wish to speak to this as well.
Okay, thank you, Becky. Are there any questions for the city?
No. Deb Wendeldob says no.
I have one question. So if they were to set the garage back the 7 feet required to comply with the front yard setback, there would be no other setbacks violated, would there?
Correct.
If the applicant wishes to speak, now's the time.
Okay, this is Brian Martin. Thank you for hearing this today. The reason the garage is located where it was is I believe the lot's atypical, and as we push that structure back the 7 feet, we wind up pushing the garage basically into the middle of the backyard, about 6 feet behind the fence. And as the south property line starts to angle off to the north with the increasing arc of the widened portion of Lilac Lane, we wind up setting the garage in the middle of the backyard and making it pretty much unusable. The placement that we came up with is behind the existing structure. And then I'd like to point out, if you go to that older Woodcrest area, most of the setbacks are in that 20 to 24 foot range. In the other cul-de-sac on Willow Road, Maggie, do you have that one too?
Yes, 1 second.
And as she's picking that up, the offsets and the setbacks that we have for that garage are pretty typically more than what you're going to see in that neighborhood on previously built structures. And so, and we don't want to be in front of anybody's, we don't want to have it visually impact anybody's house or windows or anything like that. But if you get back into the Willow Road, their houses are in that structure, and those atypical lots are between 22 and 23 foot offsets off the property line, simply because of those angling properties. And then the arc of the cul-de-sac is causing that to move back at a healthy pace, or a healthy angle, basically. So if you overlook those, the garage is behind my neighbors, and it's, as you come down that Lilac Lane on one side or the other, it shouldn't be a visual impact. We're going to match the structure of the house. So it will be a stick-built garage.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant?
This is Deb Wendeldob. Are there trees that will be removed to put in this garage, or are there more trees behind the proposed location? Because there's a lot of mature trees in that area.
Correct. The only tree that would be removed is in the proposed driveway area. There's that's actually 2 lots. And so if we locate the garage where it's shown, there is probably a 3-inch diameter tree, and then on each side are the full mature trees. If we wind up pushing it back, you can see behind the garage, there's a mature tree right behind the garage that we're going to keep. And then to the north of that, there's a mature tree. If we wind up pushing it, that we're going to be close to it. I don't think we would have to remove it, but we placed it that space and enough forward so that we wouldn't hit the roots of or anything of those trees that are mature.
Thank you.
This is Mark Mitchell. On the setback for the distance between the sidewalk and the new proposed garage, if you were to get the variance, am I reading this right? It would be approximately 23 feet.
Yeah, it would be 23 feet back from, I think that's the closest it would get to the arc of the cul-de-sac.
Okay, are there any other questions for either the applicant or the city?
This is Deb Wendeldob. One more question for the applicant. Are you going to keep your fence in front of the garage, or would the fence terminate at your garage face?
The fence would terminate at the garage face on either side of it, and then
Okay.
there'd be just enough room for a man door between the front of the fence and the face of the garage. And then it was the intent.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there a motion?
I make a motion to on the staff suggestion to accept the applicant's or to deny the applicant's application.
So are you making the suggested motion?
Yes. To accept the findings of the staff and deny the request variance to allow the proposed detached garage to encroach into the required front setback, the SR2 zoning district, on the basis that the review criteria in section 200914E1 AMC has not been met.
Is there a second? Hearing none, motion fails due to a lack of a second. Is there another motion?
Could we have more discussion?
Yes.
I know normally we make a motion and then have discussion, but I'm wondering if there's just some, is that appropriate or is that acceptable?
Well, is there? Yeah, we can have discussion. That's fine.
Okay. When I look at the site and some of the considerations, I'm thinking the shorter the driveway, the better for the neighborhood. Also, I recognize that it is a variance and the garage would be in line with the face of the house section of the property to the south. I did drive Lilac Lane and looked at this, and I believe that this is probably the best location for the garage. As Brian had mentioned, if we require it to go past, to be set back 7 more feet to meet the standards, it would have to be moved to the north and then pushed back because we get too close to the south property line.
This is Russell Ford Dunker. I agree. At first I thought, well, you know, that lot is just plenty big enough to move it back, but considering the tree, the and just, I think the location looks okay where, in what's proposed. So, I would, I'll make a motion to accept the variance, to grant the variance.
Okay. Motion by,
You want me to?
motion by Russell Ford Dunker. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Deb Wendell Dobbs. Any further discussion? If not, please call the roll. So a yes vote would be to approve the variance.
Deb Wendell Dobb,
Yes.
Matthew Barine,
Yes.
Russell Ford Dunker,
Yes.
Mike Mitchell,
Yes.
Mike Love.
Yes. Variance has been approved. That will move on to item 2B, variance request at 2921 First Avenue North.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. So item 2B on your agenda is located at 2921 First Avenue North. The applicant and owner is Mike Peterson, and he is joining us virtually today. The applicant would like to construct a building addition that would be partially located within the required interior side setback. Section 200501 of the Land Development Code requires that primary structures be set back at least 10 feet from the interior side property line in the limited industrial zoning district. The proposed addition would be in line with the existing building on the subject property, which is only 4 feet away from the eastern interior property line. Accordingly, the applicant is requesting a variance to allow the proposed building addition to encroach 6 feet into the required interior side setback. Today, there is an existing building, as we said, located, and then this is a rough site plan of what the applicant is proposing. For the review criteria, A, the requested variance arises from conditions that are unique to the subject property. So like I said, one building does currently exist on the subject property. The existing building was constructed in 1991 before the establishment of the current Land Development Code. When the LDC was adopted in 1998, the existing building became legally non-conforming due to its proximity to the eastern property line. Today, the applicant is requesting permission to construct an addition in line with that existing building. Ultimately, staff finds that the requested variance does not arise from conditions that are unique to the property. And although the existing building is legally non-conforming, any new addition could be constructed within the existing requirements of the Land Development Code. So criteria A would be considered not satisfied. B, the proposed project will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners. Once again, notices were sent to owners within 300 feet of the subject property, and to date, staff has received no calls. Staff finds that the reduction of the interior side setback as addressed by the variance would not adversely affect the rights of property owners, so criteria B is satisfied. C, the applicable standards will constitute an unnecessary physical hardship. The reduction of the interior side setback is not required for the use and enjoyment of the property as a commercial warehouse, and so staff finds that the strict application of the applicable standards will not constitute an unnecessary physical hardship because the property can be used for otherwise allowed use without coming into conflict with the LDC standards. So criteria C is not satisfied. D, the proposed project will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. Staff agrees with that, and criteria D is satisfied. And E, the variance is the minimum variance needed to allow the structure as it is proposed, so criteria E is satisfied. With that, our recommendation is to accept the findings of staff and deny the requested variance to allow a reduction of the interior side setback in the limited industrial zoning district on the basis that criteria A and C have not been met. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and Mike Peterson may also wish to speak to this application.
Thank you.
So you're saying you don't recommend it because we just want to extend the building on each side? It's an existing structure, and we've talked to the neighbor behind us, and they have no issue with it. And they're willing to grant us a variance if need be for the additional, 6 to 10 feet, whatever we require for our building. So,
Well, let's, we're gonna ask some questions of staff here, see if there's any questions for staff, and then we'll give you a chance to speak to your variance request.
Okay.
Are there any questions for staff?
There appeared to be an easement agreement or a no-build agreement, and I'm just wondering, typically, it's more than just initial by the owner, and I'm wondering if the city is in the process of reviewing, and I don't know if the city has like a signature page or something that where a no-build has to be signed by the city, or if it's just between the property owners.
I'm actually going to let Chris Rose from the inspections department answer that. So,
Hi, Chris Rose from Inspections. We have asked the property owner if the variance is approved to record the easement so that it follows the property through the life of the buildings or building. But no, we would not normally just accept a signature. We would ask that it be recorded with the recorder's office. It's not something that the city does. It's something that he has to do through the recorder's office.
Okay.
And
So this is
we would do that, but we'd want to get the variance first before we went to the next step, because it wouldn't do any good to do the next step if the variance isn't approved.
Yes, that makes sense. So if the variance was approved, would it have conditional approval based on the recording of the easement or the no-build zone?
I think you could make that contingent upon the either approval or denial, whichever the board decides to do.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I think the other part of your question was, is the city has been involved in the development of this easement, correct? Or assisting as far as reviewing and making sure language is
We reviewed
adequate?
it. We reviewed it to verify that the lots were correct and the owners were correct. We didn't have our city attorney look it over. It's my opinion that I feel like that's kind of a waste of his time, of their office's time. We feel that it meets the intent of the no build. It's got the correct addresses and it's got the neighboring property owner. We do feel that I think the signature's name was Ed, that maybe it could be just a little bit more formal on the signature line, and then the recording is all we would have required.
And the when it goes to the county, if it doesn't meet their requirements, it wouldn't get recorded. So there'd be another level of review there as far as the language and the signature stuff. So okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay.
I don't have anything.
All right. Mr. Peterson, if you would like to speak additionally to your request.
I guess, like I said, the only thing for us is it would help us just to kind of have some more indoor storage so we wouldn't have as much stuff outside. That's kind of why we want it. It's 2 small additions onto an existing structure that's currently on the line. So going out 23 feet one way and 28 feet the other way, I don't think is, going to make any adverse changes to the property or anything like that. So I guess I'm just hoping you guys will grant us this so we can continue forward to start putting on these small additions. So.
Any questions for the applicant?
This is Deb Wendeldob. I do not.
Any further discussion for a motion?
This is Russell Ford Dunker. Would it be possible to, well, I guess it would be possible to build the additions offset from the existing structure. Would that be feasible as far as what you do with the rest of the lot, or what you do inside of the building? Would it work to offset the additions?
It wouldn't really be feasible because it would offset the back end 6 feet, and it would push the front end out 6 feet, and then we'd lose space up to the front. We're pretty congested where we're at right now, you know, so it would be best if we could just keep it in line with this existing building. You know, it's not, like I said, we're not taking up any more space than that's already here on that back property line, so. It'd be a different story if we're building a new building, but since the majority of the existing building is more than the additions we're putting on, I guess I don't see an issue, but.
Thank you.
Any further questions, or is there a motion?
This is Deb Wendell Dobb. If there is no further discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the variance to allow the proposed building addition to encroach into the required rear interior side setback in the limited industrial zoning district on the condition that the no build zone easement gets recorded.
Okay. Motion by Deb Wendell Dobbs. Is there a second?
I'll second. Russell.
Seconded by Russell Ford Dunker. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mike Mitchell,
Yes.
Matthew Barine,
Yes.
Russell Ford Dunker,
Yes.
Deb Wendell Dobb,
Yes.
Mike Love.
Yes. Your variance request is approved contingent upon the recording of the no-build easement. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no other business, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So move. Russell.
Moved by Russell Ford Dunker. Is there a second?
Deb Wendell Dobbs seconds
Okay.
the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We're adjourned.
Aye.
Thank you.